Hello, it is Friday, January 15th, 2016. I have the day off today, so I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I got a facial earlier, and I got my eyebrows waxed and my nails done. Took care of a lot of personal things today. I feel like getting your eyebrows done is one of those things where it's like, it makes such a subtle difference, but like such a big difference. So I feel good. I wanted to tell you about my trip to the Museum of Death. I went to LA for the past 2 days. It was so much fun. I did a lot of shopping and I got a lot of cool stuff that I want to show you, but I want to tell you about my trip to the Museum of Death first, because it was like the thing I was looking forward to the most of going to LA. So here's my ticket from the Museum of Death. It is really cool. Look at that. Ugh, scary. It says, kind of funny on the back, by using this ticket, the holder voluntarily assumes all risk and danger incidental to visiting the Museum of Death, whether such risks occur prior, during, or after, including but not exclusively the danger of being injured by viewing exhibits, losing consciousness, slipping, falling, being pushed, falling objects, or any other occurrences that may happen while visiting the Museum of Death. The holder further agrees that the Museum of Death employees and agents are not liable for any injuries. The Museum of Death may cause headaches, seizures, epilepsy, PTSD, appetite loss, double vision, divorce, and many other problems. Enter at your own risk. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. So, obviously, the best museum ever to exist. So it's on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood. It has its own parking lot, which is good. It was full though, but we didn't have trouble finding street parking, and the street parking was for 2 hours. So it's a pretty small museum. You can definitely see everything in 2 hours. So it's only $15 too, which is like a great price, I think. So you walk in and you walk through this giant gate that has a big skull on it like this, and it says Museum of Death. You walk inside and you pay the man, and then you go through the store on the right. You can't take any photos or videos or anything inside, so I'll just tell you about what was in there, and then if you're planning to go, I think everyone should go look at it, especially if you're interested in any kind of true crime, murder, all kinds of, it deals with every single facet of death that there is. Like, I don't think there was any stone left unturned. Everything was just really, really interesting, and there's so much to look at and read. You could spend, at least I could spend a long time in there. I don't know. My friends probably kind of grossed out. But, so you walk in the right, and the first room is serial killers. So obviously starting with a bang, so exciting. They have a whole wall of artwork done by John Wayne Gacy, which was so cool to see. They have a whole other section of Son of Sam stuff and letters that he wrote from prison, things, and it's the actual letter and the actual painting. It's not like just a picture of it or a reproduction. It is the thing from the person, which is crazy to look at it and know that this like horrible murderer like wrote this, and like some of it is really creepy and disturbing and weird. They had all these drawings that Otis Toole did with Henry Lee Lucas. They went on like a murder spree in the 80s, and then they had a whole section on Richard Ramirez, who was like a satanic devil worshiper. I think I definitely want to read a book about him next. It made me inspired to like read more and like know more, because I know a decent amount, especially because I've watched a lot of movies about, and like I've read all the Wikipedia articles and stuff, but I think just like getting more into the meat of the stories. So that was the first room, and then the next room is about kind of like funeral stuff. So oh no, the next room is execution. So there's all this stuff about like how people have been executed through the ages, all up from like hangings to electric chair, lethal injection, gas chamber, all the ways that people have been executed. There's photos of people being hanged, like public hangings. So obviously, if you're a little squeamish or whatever, like it's real photos of dead people. So obviously, I have been desensitized I have no feeling anymore of it. So it was interesting to me. It wasn't scary or weird or gross to look at. It's just more, I don't know, it's like interesting to see, I guess. But that's not even the worst thing that they have there to look at. So then they have an electric chair mock-up, and you can look through these things and see all these inmates who have been on death row and read about how they do lethal injection and like kind of the pros and cons to the argument of that and if the death penalty is humane or whatever. So the next room after that, it's all funeral stuff. So they have like all these funeral invitations from years past, like Victorian era. They have all, they used to like take pictures of dead people in their caskets. So they have a lot of that, a lot of those photos. They have like all these different caskets that you can look at. Like they have a baby casket and then like a full-size adult casket. They have different caskets from different cultures. Like they have like a Jewish, how they bury, like Jewish people bury each other, I guess. And the next room after that is all about embalming and how they preserve dead bodies and how they get them ready to go into a viewing for a funeral, which I thought that was really cool because it's something that happens to everyone. Everyone eventually is gonna die, and then your body's gonna have to be dealt with, whether you decide to get cremated or you decide to be buried, whether you decide to have a closed casket or an open casket. And they actually had a movie going, which I guess must have been like a video for a mortician school or something, because it was showing how they process the bodies and how they like pump in the embalming fluid with this machine. And they don't pump in it like this, but like they pump it using this pressurized motorized pump to pump the embalming fluid. And they had all these bottles of different embalming fluids. They had little things that you would never even think of that exist. Like they have these little things that go in the eyes that keep the shape of the eyelids, because I'm pretty sure they take your eyeballs out, but they keep the shape of the eyelid, and then they keep the eyes of the corpse from opening like during the funeral, I guess. That would be horrifying. There's no eyeballs in there anymore. And then, let's see, what else? That room was there was so much in there, like, and they had all these matchbooks on the wall of different, like, funeral homes and undertaker services, which was cool. Then you go down, next room, they had a whole display of Charles Manson. They had a whole room dedicated to the Manson family. I've read pretty much a lot about the Manson family, and they have like a movie going with like people talking from the Manson family actually talking about their experience and what they believe. They're like saying like he's Jesus Christ, all this stuff. So they have a bunch of his artwork too, which was super awesome. Like, not gonna lie, I really was stoked to see that. And then they have a whole section devoted to the Heaven's Gate cult, which is local to San Diego, which was awesome to see. They have the video of Applewhite, the leader of the cult, his like indoctrination video. You could watch it, and they had a mock-up of like the bunk beds with the like dead body dummies in it that had killed themselves with the cyanide pudding. And then they had a whole display about Jim Jones and the Jonestown massacre that happened. That's something I would really like to know more about. I don't know so much about it, and I think that that's going to be my next book. When I've decided, after going to the Museum of Death, I am back on my true crime kick, and I'm going to start reading a lot more books. I have a new, I took a break for a while, now I'm coming back. So that was pretty interesting. They have this whole, like, gnarly photo display of crime scene photos, like dead bodies, like in these horrible different contorted positions, and like this guy got his brains blown out, and this, like, there's like seriously disturbing photos there. So I guess you could skip those things if you feel like maybe you wouldn't be able to stomach it, but I don't know, it's like kind of important to look at, I think. And there's this whole section, this was like really gross but super interesting. This woman, apparently she was married, she hated her husband, she was cheating on him, she had a boyfriend, and then they decided, her and the boyfriend, like, we're gonna kill the husband. So they kill him, and in their, like, death, murder euphoria, decide to get naked and hack up the body and have some fun and, like, take really disturbing, like, weird pictures with the body. And they have a picture of her, like, cutting the head off, and then there's a picture, they cut off his head and his hand, and there's a picture of him, like, picking his nose, but it's just, like, his head and his hand on a chair or something. It's really weird. So they took the photos to get developed. They took them to a friend, and the friend said, yeah, no problem, like, I'll, you know, this is before digital cameras, it's like in the 80s. So they take the photos to get developed, and then whoever, the friend didn't say anything, but then whoever packed up the photos in the envelope saw and reported them to the police, so they got caught. He went to prison for homicide, but she turned to inform on him, basically. She cooperated with the police and was out within like 6 months. The only thing she was charged with was like mutilating a corpse. So, and like the last line was like, so she's free, gentlemen, like watch out who you date. So, but the pictures were so gnarly, like just, yeah, like I can't believe people could do that. That's so weird. Then there's a whole section about like drunk driving, crime scene photos, which, yeah, like, buckle up and don't drink and drive, because there's like a picture of a dude, his face was literally smashed like a pumpkin and his brains were everywhere. So yeah, that probably was like the most gnarly thing for me, because, you know, not like, oh, you know, anyone could probably get murdered too, but just like drinking and driving or getting hit by a drunk driver, like, you don't really have much control over that. Well, you have control over drinking and driving, obviously. But, so there's that, and then there was another section with, like, animal bones, like, there's, like, all these different animal skeletons, which was cool. They have, like, a giraffe skeleton, an elephant skull, all kinds of different, like, birds and little rodents. They have a whole taxidermy room that has in it, like a whole collection of albino animals, like albino skunk, albino possum, albino, there's just like everything albino. Then there's a whole section about kind of Hollywood celebrity deaths and murders, and like the Black Dahlia murder has a big display, which, I mean, those photos are so gnarly, and for how long ago that it was, you know, it's just, people have been messed up since the beginning of time. Then there was a whole room about cannibalism, and cannibalism from the tribal aspect, and then they go into famous serial killer cannibalists like Jeffrey Dahmer. He was in there. They have a really creepy part was they had this whole section about Jack Kevorkian, obviously Dr. Death. But he has paintings, like they have a bunch of his artwork and paintings up on the display, and his paintings are really weird and disturbing, just like the weirdest thing ever. And I didn't even know that he painted or was an artist. Obviously, I really like the art of the serial killer murderer aspect. I guess that's my favorite part to look at. But then you come to the end, and like the last room is a whole room dedicated to like G.G. Allin, who he was a musician, kind of a punk rocker, kind of shock rocker type of thing, and he was like famously going to kill himself on stage in the middle of his performance, but died of an overdose before he could get the opportunity to do that. So I guess whoever owns the museum must just be a big fan of his or something. But yeah, other than that, that was it. We saw the whole thing. I'd love to go back again and just look at everything again. I'm already like planning my next trip to go up and go back, because it was just so interesting, and definitely like so much to look at. Every inch of the walls and the shelves are just crammed with things to look at, and artifacts and letters and artwork and just all kinds of interesting stuff. There's so much there. So if you're ever in LA and you're not too scared of those scary things, you should check it out. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I recommend it.